Hello everyone, friends. We're starting another game review from CAS.AI, and today we have a rare guest for our review, a platformer. This is our first platformer review with Zoriana. I remember we haven't had any platformers yet.
Not yet, that's right.
Valera, could you please tell us why a platformer? Why did you decide that? So, how did this idea come to you and what inspired you?
To put it briefly, I made my first more or less decent game with a team called Cat Cringe. It was a music game. The point is, we had pretty low retention in that game. People liked the game, it got high ratings and a lot of them, but we had low retention. I thought maybe it's all because I don't have enough content. I figured that I needed to make a game with many locations, bosses, enemies, some progression, and the storyline. And I needed a format to present all of that. Just remembering old games like Contra or something more lively. If you've heard of it, there's a game called Metal Assault or Metal Slug, for example. Those games were great for showing a lot of visuals, different locations and characters. That's how I settled on making a platformer. Plus, I thought platformers are convenient to play when you have two-touch joysticks, which works well for mobile overall.
Vika, let's go then. I understand the game is empty. And in general, what do you think about platformers? Is it worth promoting them through ASO? Who will tell us about ASO and platformers if not you? Let's go.
Yes, hi all. For platformers, as with other games, we focus on visual ASO. That is the text part. We allow some inaccuracies here because all this will be driven by paid traffic and mostly for almost any genre. For gaming topics, it will still be the main branded or some especially popular keywords. This is no exception. Let's start with Google Play itself. I really like the video. It's great. I have no comments on it. I like the icon, but I didn't like the screenshots. They are so small that it's almost impossible to see anything on them. Experiment. With the first, second, and third screenshots, because you have a focal caption there, that's great. But I'd like to see more action, something more engaging, so that when you look at the picture, you immediately think, oh, cool, that's what I want. All this is for an A/B test. It's kind of an ongoing theme. Maybe it even makes sense to use some zombie C. To me, that's more interesting than the screenshot you currently have. Your first 3 or 4 screenshots need to be captivating and grab people's attention. Because if we are talking about shooters or, well, any games really, it's mostly all about the visuals. As for ASO optimization, I can see the main keywords coming through, like 2D, platformer, RPG, and some kind of shooting. From this perspective, it needs to be rewritten, and you should add more relevant keywords that include things like guns, shooting, zombies, dragons. Basically, you should include everything you possibly can there. But I wouldn't put the primary focus or attention on obtaining organic traffic from search, simply because, after all, this is a gaming app. As for the rating overall isn't bad, of course, but we need at least a 4.5, so it needs to be fixed urgently. Rate as request may fix it. You can tweak it within the app. I think everything will go well. First, you need to update the ASO. Then I would test new screenshots, and after that, I would start buying traffic. And from there, everything will gradually fall into place, and the rating will even out. If there's a rate as request in the app with screenshots, we'll figure out which are best to use. That's it. Overall, I think that's all I have on comments. If you have any questions, preferably discuss them in conversation. Let's continue.
I probably have some questions. General, I think our viewers will be interested as well. Could you tell us, please, do you use AI specifically for selecting screenshots? Because I recently heard from some of my other colleagues that you can even upload various screenshots into any AI, and it can highlight for you which visuals or color schemes work better. And this color scheme also depends on the time of year, the location, and so on. Do you actually do anything like that?
Let's look at the situation realistically. Artificial intelligence in general works better than a human. It's that if we're talking about minor details like hands or video, it has flaws. And of course, without a good skilled designer to retouch it, you can't do without one. But overall, the idea and positioning, the way artificial intelligence presents it is really great. I even have a case where when AI was just emerging and Midjourney appeared, I had a children's gaming app and the client did everything through Midjourney. and the conversion rate increased by about 3 or 4%. Honestly, those were huge numbers. That was when it started appearing. Since then, I've recommended everyone use artificial intelligence. Why not? I just don't see a problem with it. The main thing is not to overdo it, so you don't end up with users leaving after seeing everything looking so beautifully, appealing and useful. But then you install the app and it's really awful. You just want to delete it right away. Ensure that kind of effect doesn't happen.
Okay, cool. Thanks. I just have one more question. Today you even showed screenshots from this game. There are captions, there's text, and there's even a screenshot with a phrase that's already taken directly from the game's store page. So how do captions or text displayed on screens actually affect ranking? Does Google actually read this if there's a lot of text there or not? I mean, the text we added and the text that's already on the screenshot, won't they possibly interfere with each other?
That's a good question, but I can't give you a definite answer. And no one can give you a definite answer because it's a dilemma, like to be or not to be. Actually, I think it really does read the text from screenshots because any chat and any artificial intelligence chat can in fact recognize the text that's on an image. I think that Google Play might allow artificial intelligence that recognizes text on images. For us, this is important more for the user than for ranking. And very often in gaming apps, I come across cases where, for example, you make really beautiful and high quality screenshots, everything looks great, you add some prominent text, it's all cool, but conversions drop significantly. It's a matter of taste, everyone has their own preferences. That's why in gaming apps, it often works better if you don't add any prominent captions at all. And it depends on the audience. The younger they are, the less they want to read. They just need pictures with bright, vivid colors, and then everything will work out. If we're talking about whether these things are ranked, I think they are, but I think their weight is very low, like reviews.
I've just heard that there's really this kind of dialogue window on a screenshot, right? There's just some text there. And if we add our own text, some phrase for conditional ranking, it will actually interfere and overload the screenshot, so it's probably better not to do that. You actually showed this vivid example today. Awesome, thank you very much for detailed explanations. Vika is an ASO specialist, contact her. Let's smoothly transition to me then. Valera, could you please tell us if there have been any attempts to buy any traffic? Maybe you bought something on Google or other sources? Advertising purchases and accordingly their ratio. And review competitors' actions.
I'll probably start with monetization then. That would probably make more sense. The game uses ad-based monetization. Interstitial ads appear at logical moments, before, after, and in the middle of a level. There's a saving zone that shows an interstitial. You can show up to 3 interstitials per level, and a level is completed on average in 6 to 7 minutes. There are rewards for various in-game resources, in-app purchases for these resources, and the standard in-app purchase to disable ads. For user acquisition, we've played like we were running campaigns in the US, and acquisition was done through Facebook. Our retention rate averaged 30%.
That's according to Firebase, probably from day one.
Yes, that was the day one retention rate. Day one retention was 30%, and the CPI on Facebook was $1.8 per install, which is quite a lot.
That's actually a lot. Seems like you might have actually overdone it. Let me add a bit more to what Victoria said. The gameplay is very interesting, at least in my subjective opinion. You sent us a list of competitors you were looking at and benchmarking against. Let's take a look at what they have. This is one of them. As you can see, over the last 30 days, they've had only a few purchases, so most likely their main monetization comes from ads. If we look at the lifetime numbers, they've earned something here and there. Most of our traffic comes from the US. This is organic matter. There's also Russia, Germany, and Brazil. Let's take a look at their creatives and see where they're buying traffic. Here I have data for the last 90 days they're buying traffic on Uplovin, so most likely they're using max mediation, which makes perfect sense. So all the traffic is coming from there. A bit from Google Ads, plus some traffic from YouTube. Our impressions were in the US. Interestingly, the Netherlands is in second place, even though it's a relatively small geo. There was a pretty large number of impressions there. Europe, Turkey, Germany, TIR 1 years. Even here, I don't see Latin America in second or third place. You see, they're buying traffic on Uplovin. It's absolutely clear that they're buying video ads. And here there's an interactive end map. It's everywhere. Let's take a look at one of the top creatives they have. A pretty simple gameplay creative. There are a lot of different special effects, but nothing is flying apart anywhere, and there's no audio track. I mean, absolutely no voiceover or text. A simple creative like this. But let's also take a look at the data over the past year. Here, the situation has changed completely. Apparently, they were running some tests as well. Most likely, maybe they were also testing creatives, perhaps as part of their process, because first there was Facebook, then Uplovin, and then Google was added. Regarding this competitor, yes, we see they are buying traffic, actively buying, and tested several channels, choosing the one most relevant for them.
Here we can clearly see that the creatives that used to be very popular before simply no longer work. They've burned out. Even if we look at the last 360 days, we still see completely different and unique creatives appearing at the very top. The creative at the top right now is for the most part completely fresh with 233,000 impressions.
It was added in February. In these games, in shooters, creatives burn out quickly. We know this from our own experience. First thing, and second, if you look, initially it was Applovin and then Facebook. Facebook goes through creatives significantly faster. They burn out 2 or 3 times quicker than on regular networks. If on Applovin a single creative can last half a year or longer if it catches on, that's not the case with Facebook. You always have to consistently feed it with new creatives, new images, always. And it shouldn't just be a single pixel changed, but an entirely different visual from the start. Our second competitor is quite new. There are simply no metrics here, and it doesn't buy traffic anywhere. And the third one, the one you showed us, is a bit smaller than the first one we looked at, but still quite interesting. Let me remind you that when I showed this page, we're just looking at total downloads, not paid traffic. And here we have Mexico, which actually really surprised me, Korea, then the US, Brazil, and Japan in this ranking. So the game's geography is actually very diverse. Again, right now we're looking at a shorter period, just 90 days. As we can see, YouTube was used here, and 3% of it was all Google. But note that lately almost nothing has been purchased in terms of impressions on the creative. You can check that. It's a very small number of impressions. Maybe somewhere they tried to buy some traffic. That's a picture. And now let's look at the overall situation for the past year. Here, the situation is different. They tried Facebook. There was a pretty decent ad buy here. The rest was Google. They even tried TikTok, but mostly relied on Google. Everything here was focused on video. They don't use Facebook, and playables, as you know, are usually simple gameplay creatives. Let's take a look at one of them here, right? Pay attention to the concept itself, if we're filming a TV screen while someone plays. Yes, there are also some very interesting visual effects. Lighting on the sides. Yes, everything is moving, the camera is moving, creating this real life effect, which is really, really cool for shooters, action games, runners, and so on. Okay, traffic went to Turkey, France, and Mexico. There was a bit to Italy and Spain, and some purchases were made in Europe with the US only at the end. I want to say that probably games of this kind are being bought, and if you see them running on networks, they're likely performing well. For Facebook, I think it's obviously going to be expensive traffic. But, well, if we're not talking about the US, maybe if we try Europe or tier 3 countries, it might pay off. But still, networks like Mintegral, Unity, and Uplovin are even more relevant sources of traffic for this type of game.
Zoriana, are there any specific requirements or metrics that need to be mentioned for platformers if we compare them to hyper-casual games, or is it the same? More ads, more monetization, and we just see where it goes? Or is it still more of a mid-core project and you don't need to focus so much on day zero?
I tend to think that this isn't quite the hyper-casual games format. I wouldn't say it's mid-core, it's probably somewhere in between, something like middle retention. Look not just at day 0 or 1, but if users stay by month's end. What is the user's lifetime in the game overall? You have placements, and from what you said, it seems like there might be enough of them per user, but you need to put ads there so we can track what LTV we can get, both ad revenue and in-app purchases, and then calculate the total LTV per user, which will allow us to draw certain conclusions. So we improve the metrics, make sure our retention rate is maintained, and work on creating new, interesting, and appealing content for users.
Thank you, Zoriana. We discussed what we needed. Valera, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. I basically agree with everything Victoria said about creatives and with what Zoriana said regarding the genre of this game and the nature of the creatives, that they really do burn out quickly. And you need to make them as diverse and colorful as possible. We've already seen this ourselves during the Playduck test when we just uploaded creatives to Facebook that were simply gameplay recordings with music overlaid. And as a result, we got a high CPI and an expensive, ineffective outcome. I have no questions. That's just fundamental.
All right, everyone. Thank you all. See you next time. In the next part, of course, we'll cover more gameplay-related topics, talk about competitors, growth points, and things like game profiling and so on. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.